Hello, and welcome. I'm Dave the Wanderer. If this is your first time here, that may sound like a funny name. Since I was a kid, I have always loved the idea of a wandering storyteller. Since there aren't any taverns full of people waiting to hear a story these days, I've opted for the next best way to be a wandering storyteller. This channel. So sit back, relax, and prepare for an adventure. Hello, and welcome back to Audio Storytime. I'm Dave the Wanderer, and this week we'll be continuing our story, Riftlander, from the Legends of Vandor series by author DJ Morand. Picking up where we left off, here is Riftlander, Part 3. The branch nearly took his head. Instead, it grazed his ear and tore a good chunk of it off. Bastion sidestepped and swung his axe with both hands. The blade split the woodland creature as he cleared the last of the dark wood. The trek through the woods had taken them halfway into the night. The army was tired, and at least a fourth of them were wounded. Bastion suspected another eighth of the wounded would die before the sun rose. Still, he had a formidable force. Reports indicated that the siege engines were just to the south of Maker's Pass. Bastion wondered if the Bridgeguard Master Grunwald had made it out alive. If he had not, someone would have to take his place. Bastion feared it would be himself. He did not want the responsibility of so many men. It would kill him losing the numbers that the Bridgeguard had lost in the recent war alone. Bastion stared out over the land. The density of the forest thinned here, and the woodland cleared at another 100 yards. The open clearing was full. He expected the sight, but it unnerved him all the same. Enormous machines, constructed from the bones of some ancient beast. He had heard of dragons, but Bastion had never expected to see the weapons of war fashioned from their bones. The legends told of the strength of the beast's bones and likened them to steel. The thought of battling against demons and overcoming their siege weapons gave him pause.
How can we fight against such a foe?
Visions of his past haunted him, men falling before him, and dying while screaming the name of loved ones. He could hear their cries, and for a brief moment he was there with them again. Cries of the fallen echoed around him as the scent of blood and sulfur assaulted his senses. Bastion could feel hands gripping his throat and threatening to tear away his life. Slowly, he would droop from his fear. Slowly, he strengthened his resolve.
Fitbin had died, so that we could end this threat. I will not falter.
Bastion turned to his men. He could see fear in their eyes, the determination of their hearts.
We cannot fail. We put everything on the line. Everything this day until our last breath. The entire world rests on our shoulders. The entire Westlands require our bravery. The Riftland asks that you be strong, that you have the strength to fight and die for her. Our families, our fallen friends, they ask that we give all we have this day. Raw!
The chorus echoed back to him as a single voice.
Raw,
he thought. He turned and raised his axe high above his head and charged into battle. The ground beyond the dark wood was soft from the dew. Here the dew had not frozen, so it was also slick. Bastion did his best to keep his footing. The rhythmic stomp of the army behind him told Bastion that his soldiers were doing their best as well. With a cry, they flooded into the demon camp. The creatures were caught unaware, began fighting back only after losing several of the larger beasts. Bastion recognized them. The Ramtoma, demons with ram's horns, curling around like a sea conch. They bore men's faces and bodies. The fiends lined up and roared in defiance of Bastion's men. The Ramtoma were muscular and wore no armor or clothing save for loincloths. They brandished wicked-looking polearms with spiked maces on their end. Bastion didn't understand how they could be effective with such a weapon. Then he saw them move, in a unified, fluid motion. The first rank of his soldiers were caught under the attack. The mace-like weapons caused them to crash into each other as each soldier toppled from the massive strike. Several of the beasts had to drop their weapons because of spikes caught in men's armor. Bastion slowed his charge.
Archers, loose!
He bellowed the command. The combined twang of the release of 100 bows was music to Bastion's ears. The arrows sailed overhead with a light whistle as they rained down on the demons. Some arrows dug deep and found their true mark. The Ramtoma fell howling in agony, but many more roared. A second unified swing came, but the soldiers recognized the slow action this time. Few were caught unaware, and those that were hit managed to evade the worst of it. The The demons recognized their attack was ineffective and broke ranks. A large bull of a beast came barreling from behind them. Bastion couldn't tell what it was. The creature was at least 3 times the height and width of a man. Its back legs pumped furiously as it charged on all 4s. He had no word for this demon. Bastion assumed it was some sort of pet of the demon spawn. The beast roared with the voice of a man and demon combined. The echo of it hung in the air. Bastion felt the fear emanating from his men. He motioned them back and stepped into the beast's path. The bloodlust in the charging demon's eyes spoke volumes to its state of mind. It continued to barrel forward as Bastion set his feet. Hot gusts of rancid breath puffed from its nostrils. The tips of its horns gleamed in the evening light. Bastion kept his axe at his side, seemingly unprepared for the beast's attacks. The other Ramtoma stood back and chanted in their strange dialect. The monstrosity bore down on Bastion. He stared at it defiantly. The beast rushed and lowered its head. Bastion stepped to the side and swung his axe in a wide arc and above his head. The beast barreled past. In the same smooth motion, Bastion brought down his axe. The beast howled in agony as Bastion yanked the axe free from the back of its thick neck. Without pause, he swung again and again. Hot blood gushed from the wound and dressed him in crimson. The beast shuddered and fell. Bastion turned to the demon horde. He raised his axe and roared. The blood-soaked visage of their leader sparked Bastion's army to a frenzy. They slammed axes against shields. Rah! 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 They bellowed their battle cry. The Ramtomas took a step back. The collective gasp of disbelief slammed through them. Rah! 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 The demons swelled like a wave in their panic. The wave rippled and curled as they turned and fled. They left their siege engines unattended and sounded the retreat. Bastion called for the attack. His army surged forward and he went with them. Even in their fueled battle lust, they chanted, Rah! 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 Bridgeguard Master Gronwall stood at the head of his army. He watched as the Ramtoma ran at them. He steeled himself. His blood ran cold as he hefted his axe. A snarl replaced the tired look on his face. With his left fist, he banged against his breastplate. Rah! 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 He thought in rhythm with speeding fist. His men took up the signal and clashed sword and axe against shield. The song echoed. They could see the field splattered with the blood of the fallen. It was obvious battle had been fought. Not this day. The Bridgeguard must stand. To me, to arms, to war. Gronwall rushed the fleeing demons. His men followed, but for Gronwall he was alone. The ground ripped and tore under their charge. Mud, grass, and dirt kicked up by their passing looked like the mangled form of a man trampled under a horse. The ram-horned demons slowed their flight and took account of Gronwall and his men. They looked uneasy and wary. A brave leader among them drew a wicked scythe and challenged the host of Gronwall's army. Bridgeguard army took up the challenge. Rah! Take my blood. Rah! Take my name. Rah! Take my wealth. Rah! Rah! They sang as they advanced. The return echo from behind the Ramtoma made Gronwall smile. Bastion, you sly dog. Thanks for listening. That was Riftlander Part 3. Next week, we'll finish this story in the Legends of Vandor series, then maybe we'll move on to a new science fiction story. As always, if you like the story, give it a like. If you want to hear more, click that subscribe button. Until next time, I'm Dave the Wanderer, and this has been Audio Storytime.